time has come for the final discussion of the day, and that is the one of geopolitics and AI. And for that, we will re-welcome Oscar, who you previously got to know, and we will also welcome Anna Topol, who is the Chief Technology Officer and also Distinguished Engineer responsible for client experiences at IBM. Very welcome to you, Anna.
Thank you. So nice to be with you. Thank you for inviting.
Yes, all the way from the States. And I actually want to begin to address you, Anna, and ask you, from your perspective, being European, working and living in the America, and at a huge global company, it's quite a unique point of view. So we have, seen this super rapid pace of AI advancements, and recently the arrival of Chinese models such as DeepSeek. What shifts do you foresee on a global scale, from economics and labor impacts to shifts in international power dynamics? Big question.
I was going to say quite a loaded question. Thank you. So maybe I would I will do my own AI assistant. I will do a little agents, one at a time. So if you look at the DeepSeek announcements, as the technologies, I was just simply excited about this. I'm just going to state, right? Because for me, this is validating the comments IBM's been making for a while, that as technology matures, your price point starts to change, right? And I think that's what we wanted to see. And we strongly believe that, yes, we will have large models. We will continue to invest with them, but purpose-focused smaller models will be as effective, and they will be cheaper, and therefore democratization of AI now is here. And I think that was an incredibly a positive outcome of the debates and the discussions, right? As the new models are, by the way, the new models are entering market, on the daily basis, right? But you have sometimes a bigger discussions than at other times. So now going back to your questions about economics, I think that's huge. I think till now, and I mean, we've seen in the Oscar in your comments, right? The more we train the models, the better they are. The more we work on inferences, the better they are. The more we work on testing, right? All those things make the models better, but the price points for those actions that we need to take to deploy models will be lower. It's not only that we are investing in new models themselves, new techniques, new architectures, there's a lot of new memories for models, all different things, but we also going to have new hardware. It's not going to be just CPUs and GPUs. We'll have other accelerators, right? And the hardware is already coming to the market too. And so inference will be done on different hardware than training potentially and so forth. So that's from geo-specific economics, that's really good. And the question is, how quickly those new capabilities can be brought across the world. And I just wanted to state that, we are living in the world of web and information instantly being delivered to all of us, which means there's a lot of smart people across the world that takes the next innovation and engineer and, and semi-improve on it, right? Being the first to market is very difficult, and that sometimes takes time. But democratizing technology is what we, are very good at.
Thank you. Any comment on that, Oscar?
Yeah, I agree with the excitement from a scientific engineering perspective. I also agree with the democratization aspect and also cost savings and energy efficiency so on in hardware. But I think one way to view the DeepSeek thing, right, is that now you can actually train even larger models on even more data, right? Because now we're getting more efficiencies. And they just released a paper yesterday or the day before of a sparse attention model, right, where you can basically get 11 times faster forward passes and backwards passes and inference passes. So that means now you can train on 10 times more compute. So I do think, the way we approach this is basically by, I think there's going to be you have recipes. So a mistake that many people have made in the past is you train a small model from scratch by assembling some data and you start to train a small model. The answer is to take the biggest model you can get, then distill it down to capable models that can do very specific things, because that's how you get the best performance. And that is turning into a recipe, right? Using synthetic data and like distillation techniques. But yeah, overall, I share the same sentiment as Anna.
And what I think would be interesting to see as well, you know, there's so much talk about China and the US. What do you think will be or should be Europe and Sweden's role in all of this? We're going to start with Anna.
All right. I think we talk about the US. First, let's be honest, you know, that's where the technology started. So of course, early start is very important. You know, we've seen it historically was followed by UK and Japan. You know, you've seen those countries developing quickly. I think if you look for the you know, if you think about readiness, because I think this is the key question that we're answering from the geopolitical scope. If we looked at 2021 and we looked at how many countries had strategies ready, there was 44 countries with ready strategies or policies or, you know, documents that stated the intent. And most of them, I call them, were the high income countries. But only, you know, this is 2021, only in 2024, you have over 180 countries that, and, you know, follow with both the low and middle income countries now stating what they're gonna do. And I think that is truly huge. That is truly huge. And, you know, for me, it's how we gonna get to the point where AI is ubiquitous like the phones. Part of it, when we look at what is being evaluated from the readiness point of view, is, of course, the government's readiness. You know, we talked about it the same as I think Maurizio commented, or somebody, that, you know, the organizations move. I think Oscar, you actually did it. That if the leadership organization, you know, is for it, right, then the organization move faster. With the governments is the same, right? You have to have the leadership. Then you have to have investments. But then you also see what is currently providing your benefits. In US, it's technology sector. In US, of course, it's a technology sector, maturity, and this, you know, capacity for innovation in general. And we do have infrastructure. If you look at the new arrivals, so if you look at a country like Brazil, they really have been for years investing in digitalization. If you are, you know, in their case, it's agriculture, and they've been working on ability to share data, to benefit various communities by having common knowledge. And I think every country will find something that is the core of their capabilities that they need to build upon. I think we commented, Mauritius commented about Japan, you know, passion and almost love of robotics, right? So I think each country will have the ability to succeed if they do what we mentioned before, focus on one thing that is really the winning, successful path. Country like Singapore focuses on data sharing, right? Something that is important to them from the private policy point of view, and speed is sharing data. And so I think that's what we need to really go for. And last one, since you mentioned Europe and Sweden, I'm going to say it was mentioned. Yes, you could be sensitive and asking yourself how trusting the AI is, but you need to try. You can be skeptical, but you have to test it, right? And so just like you said, Daniel, we have to just deploying AI. We have to test it. We have to just keep going.
Yeah. And I think you mentioned so many interesting points. It raises quite a lot more questions. I want to address to you, Daniel. I think it's lovely to expand beyond these Western usual suspects, and talk a little bit about the BRICS countries and African countries.
Absolutely.
How will they be affected, and what are they doing?
I do not have a full grasp of what they are actually doing. I'm very sorry about that, but I really do think that they should perhaps be in the conversation more. We have some, for example, global associations around AI, like GPI and stuff like that. I would love to see more engagement and more invitations to these kinds of countries and so on, because their use might not look exactly like ours. And if we take something such as, I'm going to say simple, although they're not, such as LLMs and guardrailing them and things like that, that might look different if you're deploying things with medical services and so on in Africa, where you absolutely need these things compared to, for example, Europe and so on and so on. So I think we really need to bring them into the conversation. But I do also think that for many cases in these countries, they have sort of an actual way of possibility to actually leapfrog us in the use of, just like they sort of skipped some of the fixed phone networks and stuff like that, they will sort of skip some of the stuff that we have in digitalization and healthcare, et cetera, because they can move to this AI agentic future immediately, basically.
No legacy.
Yes.
Exactly. Thank you for that answer. And Oscar, I actually have a question for you as well, regarding open source, which is slightly different, but we have seen, DeepSeek is open source, Meta is heavily invested in open source, and now even OpenAI recently, Sam Altman said that he might release one of their models as open source. What do you think we'll see in this kind of back and forth between open source and closed source? What will it entail?
Not entirely sure. It depends a bit on. So I mean, one thing that started this open source movement, we didn't start it, but really made it actually get us to a place where open source models were on par with the best closed source models. That's because Meta, right? That Mark Zuckerberg decided that we will do Llama. Now Llama is kind of falling behind DeepSeek and others, right? And they apparently have internally a war room set up now so that they can catch up. But so that's kind of the risk, right, when you do this publicly. But I think the risk is there even for closed source companies. And what's happening now, right? The people working on these models, it's a small group of people still. They move around between the companies. So the closed source strategy is not really working for these companies, I think. The technologies are shared. And as DeepSeek showed, they publish kind of the recipe now that anyone can use as long as you have the resources in terms of computation to build a model of similar capabilities. We'll see what happens with like XAI and Elon Musk, right? Because they are investing heavily, and in 1.5 years since inception, now released Grok 3, which is beating OpenAI's current best models. We'll see in a few weeks if that carries over, right? But from a European standpoint, I think it's pretty interesting. We have Hugging Face rooted in France and Mistral, which are two big players in open source. And I think if we need open source, because I think it will just make the development faster. We will get better, more capabilities faster. You see this now, from OpenAI's 01 closed release, but on top of the recipes from DeepSeek, now academia is also getting the information they need to be able to focus on the right research, and that will just accelerate the progress. So yeah, open source will be vital, I think, to progress.
And igniting innovation, it sounds like. Wonderful. Yeah. So it sounds to me like, all these shifts, so much hype going on, so much talk. The future is quite uncertain. And I think that's hard for organizations to navigate in. So what do you guys think organizations should kind of focus on in all of this news flow that's happening? What should they do and what should they focus on? And we start with Anna, a short answer.
I will comment what Hanna commented on upskilling, and skills. And I will just state that it doesn't matter if you're a government organization. As a government, you have your data center, you have your cybersecurity software people who create applications for citizens, or if you are a business company or your education, everyone will need those skills. This is like a common need for all of us. And therefore, we really do need to invest more in skills. And I just wanted to go ahead.
We'll have to cut you up. So sorry. Same question for Daniel, a quick one.
I do believe, similarly, we need to focus on skills. We need to focus on innovation, and we need to build. That's really what we need to do.
Wonderful. Last comment from you as well, Oscar.
Ride the waves of the foundation model. So don't try to reinvent everything, start from scratch. Ride the waves. Just like be open, pick the best model. A new, better model comes out every week. Set yourself up so that you can make full use of that, and build and focus on building the data sharing capabilities, having everything actually available to the model so that you can utilize the capabilities to the max.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure to have you all here, and it is time for us to wrap up this event a little bit. And I do want to ask you, Daniel, what have your main takeaways been?
I think the main takeaways is basically these kinds of systems are here. They're starting to be put into use at scale, and they're difficult. But we don't have a choice, basically. We need to start building these systems for our own sake and for our companies and organizations' sake.
Wonderful. And how fast is this shift going to happen?
It's very difficult to say, right? I think that you can perhaps break it down in a few different time frames. I think we're going to see companies building these types of very capable internal agentic systems relatively quickly. You're going to add on to human capabilities and so on even more quickly, perhaps. But the full system with agents talking about lots of things across lots of different organizations and so on, that I think is a few years into the future. We're going to basically just have to build and try and see what works.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. And with this being said, I can imagine that some of you might want to watch this again or send it to someone you work with or associated with. We do record this seminar, so we will post it on AI Sweden's YouTube shortly. And I know some of you have been asking questions in the chat. Unfortunately, we haven't been able to have a chat in this event. However, we do save all the questions you have for us, and we might be able to talk to you more in the comment field in the YouTube section. So with that said, I want to thank you all very much for attending, and a special thanks to all our panelists and keynote speakers. It's been wonderful, and I hope to see you again next year. Goodbye from me and Daniel.